Hello, welcome to our video on operation of the WDS 800. I'm just going to go over some of the features of the machine and show you the basic operation. So this is a larger unit. It has upper hot air, lower hot air, but it has an infrared area heater. The upper and lower hot air are controllable. You can run it anywhere from like 10 to 100%. So if you have small components that don't want a lot of airflow, you don't want to blow them off the board, then we can lower the airflow. But normally I'll keep it at 100%. This bottom area heater is really nice. It's a full grid array area heater, so there's no gap in the middle. So it's really good if you have heavy multi-layer boards that are 2 millimeter or larger. It'll give you a nice preheat. We have a side view camera here. So when you place the component, you can reflow. You can see when the component's reflowing. You can also verify placement verification from the side view camera. So I'm going to show you a little bit about the controls. Up here you have a button, and this button will switch between the side view camera and the main vision system camera on the machine. So you can watch them on the monitor up here. You have a rack here, and this will hold your board. Then we also have some hardware that goes with this that'll hold boards by the tuning holes or the edges in case you have some odd shape. So you have the jaws here that'll hold your board. They're adjustable. You slide the board in your jaws like that. Then you also have some hardware that if you have an odd shaped board, you can attach the hardware on the side here. This will hold the board by the tuning holes. It just goes on like this. You have various areas where you can screw this in. This slides back and forth and in and out. So if you want to hold the board by the tuning holes instead, you can use these that are provided in the toolbox. Your bottom heater here, this particularly, the bottom hot air travels with the top hot air. So you can move this whole unit left, right, in and out, and we'll show you that in a minute. But what makes it ideal is if you have a large board and you have a chip on the corner, you don't have to move the board around to the chip. What happens is you'll center the board in the fixture, you'll get the full preheat effect on the board, and these nozzles will move. You can move them to the edge of the board, forward and reverse, and we'll give you some demos of that later. You have a grid type hot air on the bottom, and so you have some other hardware that you can use, and you can use this as a board support. So this goes in here. You can adjust the screws in case your board is getting any warpage. You can use this for support, and then this also moves up and down. It has a motor control to move up and down. So you can shrink this down if you don't want to have so much airflow. You can get different bottom nozzles to allow you to focus the air on smaller areas of the board. So this is like your bottom nozzle here. The top nozzles are magnetic. And again, you can order different size top nozzles, and these are what primarily focuses the top hot air onto your chip for reflow. And you can get different sizes of those. So we're going to go through a little bit on the controls. I'm going to show you from a wide view how the controls work, and then later on we'll zoom in and I'll explain how they operate on the touch screen. We also have here other supports, and these will fit inside here, and there's little screws that go in here, and you could also move these left, right, and out, and support your board with the screws here by adjusting them up and down in case you have your board warping down, or if you have heavy boards, thin boards that sort of sag or flex a little bit, you can offer board support here. So we have board support based off of these racks, and we also have board support based off the lower heater. You have several ways to support the board if you need. So you have several ways to support the board if you need board support. So let's look at what we have here. We have control here, and this control moves the whole head up and lower nozzle, backward and forward. So this control, we are going to move the heater to the position of where our boards are. Over here are our jaws. And we can put our board inside our jaws here, tighten it up. Tighten those up. And once we get it where we want it, we can move this whole unit here moves left and right. So by moving the joystick to the right and left, we can center our board where we want it. Okay? On this side, this control controls the camera unit. You can turn it off so it doesn't work. Oh, inside this is off. This switch here is for the left-right mode, so you can turn this one off. You can turn it off. You can turn it for higher speed, and you can turn it for low speed, for moving it slower when you're fine-tune adjusting the balls. I'll show you how that works later. Then again, this control here moves our original system out. That's our system here. In, out, left, right. We're going to give you a little demonstration of how that works now. So I'm going to put my chip in the upper nest. I'm going to go to my software, and later on we'll show you close up how the software works. Right now you have the choice between weld, which is solder only, we call it weld, remove, which is to remove the chip, heat the chip up, remove it from the board, and place it in the upper nest. Then we have mount. So the mount, what we're going to do is the mount will pick up the chip in the upper nest, we'll align it on the board. Once it's aligned, we'll confirm alignment, and then it'll place it and move into the profile to heat the chip up and solder it to the board. So right now I've selected mount. What I'm going to do, I'm going to press stop and make sure everything resets to home position. Once everything is reset to home position, I'm going to press run. When it goes run, it's going to go here, it's going to pick up the chip. Make sure our nozzle is straight. It's going to come out and the light goes on. We're going to press our button here to change from this camera here to the main camera. I press the image conversion button, and now we can see our chip inside the monitor here. You have two buttons here, one's for zoom in, one's for zoom out. We're going to zoom out. Then you have lighting controls, so I can increase or decrease the light from my BGA and my circuit board. The BGA is going to be more of a blue colored light, the circuit board is going to be more of a gold colored light. Right now we got a pretty good adjustment. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take this joystick, I'm going to move my board forward. And because I'm lining up the PCB with the chip by moving the PCB. Once I get everything where I want it, I'm going to turn this all the way to the left, and this will turn it to slow speed. So it'll make my right joystick will be slow speed, and then I can fine tune the adjustment. So we're going to line up the solder balls X, Y, and then theta. This micrometer control here will rotate the chip. So let's zoom in. I'm actually zoom in here now. You can see a close up of what I'm doing. Okay, so we've got a close up of our screen. What I'm going to do, I'm going to use my zoom control. And I'm going to zoom in a bit. I'm going to bring my control down here. I want to make sure that my balls, right, upper right, my upper left ball are even. And to do that, we're going to move the head up and down a little bit to stretch the ball. So basically, my circuit board's focused. Now I need to focus the chip. So as we move the head up and down, the balls stretch a little bit. The image, due to the curve of the camera tube, will stretch in and out. Basically, the idea is we want to adjust our head to where we see the left and the right balls are aligned. Okay, now they're aligned, so I'm going to move the circuit board into the solder balls. And then what I want to do, I'm going to get this in the center and take a look and make sure that our theta is aligned. So our X and our Y are aligned. Our X and our Y are aligned. I'm going to go down here, we can see it's a little bit off. If I zoom in a little bit more, we can adjust by using the micrometer. We can rotate the chip left and right. So we're just going to get these fine-tuned. So I'm looking at the bottom pads first. I'm going to go up here, I'm going to use the joystick, I'm going to look at the top pads. And we're just rotating the chip until the top and the bottom are even with each other. Our chips are aligned. I can move to each corner. We can see that our chips are aligned on all four corners. Just going to go back to the center pads. I'm going to, again, just make sure that we're aligned. So we can see our balls are on the blue, our balls are in the blue, our PCB pads are in the yellow. Everything's on center. Okay, so once everything's on center, I'm going to switch to my side view camera. I'm going to turn my light on here. I'm going to take the side view camera and make sure that it's focused on the pads. Okay, I've got my side view camera focused on the pads. All I do is this joystick has a push button in the middle. I push the button, and that's that confirms your alignment and ready to go. The vision system's gonna go back in. It's gonna go down. It's gonna place the component. We can watch it place the component in the side view camera. And you can see the solder balls in the picture here. And you can also confirm that when it placed, the solder balls lined with the pads. So right now I'm going to stop this because I don't want to refill the chip. We're using this for demo, so I'll just press stop. So anytime during the sequence, if you want to abort, you just press stop button and it'll reset. So I'm just going to zoom in a bit. You can see the chips in the side view camera, and you can confirm that they landed on the PCB pads 100% and center. And so we can confirm like this: a secondary confirmation to confirm that our chip is placing correctly, so we know that it's in alignment. And then we can also watch when our chips reflow in the reflow stage. Okay, so that's simply how you mount the chip. You use the mount command, pick up the chip. Use the controls to align the chip to the pads, press this button, and it'll go down and it'll run the refill cycle. Let's go back to our main camera, turn the side view light off. The next thing we're going to show is the removal command. So I'm going to go to remove. I'm going to go select my remove curve. Okay, so I created a short profile here so that we don't go into heating. We're just going to remove the chip as if it heated already. So I select my remove command. You can turn on our laser. And here, if you press this button here on the right hand side, our laser comes up. And you can just confirm that your chip is roughly centered in the nozzle. If you want to really confirm your chip centered in the nozzle, we can use our other commands to manually bring out the vision system and line it up. But we already know it's lined up right now, so I'm going to go in position now. I'm going to press run. At the end of the cycle, it's going to remove the chip. I'm going to place the chip in the upper nest after we remove it. Our last command is going to be weld. And so if we have a chip that's already on the board, let's say this chip's already been placed, and it didn't reflow well, we want to reflow it a second time. So we're not going to remove it, we're not going to place it, we're just going to run the reflow cycle, the heat cycle to reflow it. We'll choose weld, press run, it's going to go down, and before the pickup tube touches the chip, it's going to stop. I've got this program to stop about 3 millimeters from the top of the chip. And it's going to run the profile for weld. It's just going to run through the profile, heat the chip up, and at the end of the profile, it'll stop. And then it goes into cool down mode. So it's pretty simple. You have the weld program. The weld program, you're just going to solder or refill the chip only. The mount program, you're going to pick up the chip in the upper nest, line it to the board, place it, then solder it to the board. And then we have our removal program simply to remove the components. So it's pretty simple there. It's a little more confusing, like I said, you're going to get used to the controls, removing the vision system in and out, and aligning your board. And then next we're going to go into a close-up on the software. There's some things that you have to do when you set up your profile. So we're going to set up the profile, we set up a heat profile for our boards, and I'm going to put some pre-programmed profiles in there. I'm going to do a lead and lead-free. And you can see our other sections on profiling. I don't want to get that long in this video. But we're going to have some starting profiles set up for you to start with, and then you could build on based on the starting profiles. When you start with the board, different components have different thicknesses and different heights. So one thing we're going to do is we're going to bring this down. Let me see what I got. We'll bring our head down using the manual control on the screen. I'm going to show you this later, but we're going to note the height of the chip, and we'll program that into the profile for this board. So it knows where to stop to pick up that chip. The one thing we're going to program is the PCB height. And then the other thing we have to program is the upper nest height, and that's going to be different for the thickness of each chip. Most boards will be pretty close to the same, but we'll just test it out, and we have to make sure we adjust those for every profile that we make for each different board and each different chip. So that covers this. Let's go ahead and we're going to move into the close-up of the touchscreen software. Okay, so here we have a close-up of our control board. This is our emergency stop. So if you need to stop at emergency, you'll press that down. It'll sound an alarm and it'll disable all functions of the machine. So So if for some reason accidentally gets pushed in when the machine's off, if you turn your machine on and you're getting an alarm and nothing functions, you always want to check the emergency stop button first. And we have our joystick. This joystick operates the head with the heaters, moves it forward, backward, left and right. Forward. Watch the bottom heater. Backwards. Left and right. So what it's doing is it moves the upper head forward and backward. And the heater follows it. And it moves the PCB here left and right. And so between moving the PCB left and right and the upper head forward and backwards, you can line the component into the nozzle. And then you can line the component to the PCB. Over here we have this here will disable the right joystick. Plus is high speed, minus is low speed. So when you're lining your chip to the board and you get it about where you want it, you're going to use the low speed to fine tune the line up the solder balls to the circuit board pads. Over here we have the joystick, and this operates the vision system solely. So again, when you use the vision system left, right, and out, and again, you're probably going to be using this mainly to get your circuit board and centered into the heater nozzle. Okay? So left joystick operates the vision system, right joystick operates the head and the PCB. Now we're going to go over the software on the touchscreen, and how to set it up and how it functions. Turn on the machine. The power switch is on the back of the machine, so you turn the main switch on. Software will boot up. Select English. Then you have your screen. So let's start with our curve setting. If you want to select a profile, we go to our curve setting. As you get into the profile, we can change things. You have to go to Admin. Give them the password 4 8s. 8, 8, 8, 8. Okay. That takes us into where we have our perimeter settings. So if I want to select a curve, I can press Curve Select. And for now, let's go to our lead-free curve. I haven't set this up yet. So we'll confirm. And this takes us into our profile for lead-free component. And we haven't set this up yet. Let's go ahead and set it up. So first we have our upper temp. You can run a profile, you can make a profile up to 8 zones. In this case, we're going to make a 4-zone profile for lead-free. So I'm going to start with my 4th zone. And normally with a lead-free board, I'll start at around 290C. And then that's going to be my maximum reflow temperature. At 290, I'm shooting to bring the PCB temperature up to around 230 to 250, depending on how heavy it is and how big the component is. And so my rule of thumb is I'll back off about 30 degrees C per segment. So I'm going to go 290 minus 30, and do 260, 260 minus 30, and do 230. So these are going to be our 3 main cycles. Going to be preheat, get close to reflow, and then reflow. Preheat, soak, and reflow. What I'm going to do is my first profile, I always usually set that at 75. And basically we're going to always bring the board up to 75 degrees C So we're always starting from the same starting point, same temperature. So this is my upper temperature. Now let's go to my lower. So this is my upper hot air. The down temp is my lower hot air. And we're going to make the same thing for the lower hot air as the upper hot air. We're going to keep them the same. Okay, so I set my upper and lower temperatures for zone 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to go 75, 230, 260, oops, and 290. Okay. The next thing I want to choose is my rate. The rate is how fast it's going to heat up. And IPC, if you're using a reflow oven, they recommend 2 to 3 degrees per second. On a BGA workstation, since we're not in an enclosed atmosphere, I usually recommend 1 to 2 degrees per second. Normally I use 1 degree per second, so I'm going to make my rate 1 degree per second for all zones. And basically this means that the heaters are going to increase 1 degree per second. So as it goes from 0 to 70, 75 to 230, 230 to 260, it's going to increase in increments of 1 degree per second. Set my down rate. Okay, so we have our rate set. Now we want to set our time. How long is it going to hold it at each zone? For my first zone, I'm just going to set my time at 30 seconds. And this is good for most boards. As you get into bigger, thicker boards, you're going to want to hold it longer so that your area heater can allow time to soak the boards or preheat the boards. Right now I'm going to go 30, 40, 40, and 60. And this should allow us enough time to heat the board at 230, give it a little bit of a soak, then take it to 260, give it a little more soak, and then take it to 290. And what our goal is to, once the solder balls become liquidous and melt, reflow, we want to hold it about 30 to 60 seconds. So I put it 60 seconds here. When we run our boards, we'll observe when the solder balls reflow in the side view camera, and then we can come back and adjust these temperatures and time till we have 30 to 60 seconds liquidus. And basically, the heavier the board, the more time. If it's a small, cheap board, I only need 30 seconds liquidus. If I've got a heavy board that has a lot of different grounding pads, a lot of copper, then I might want to go 60, might even want to go as high as 90 seconds soak on some really heavy boards. If right now, average is going to be 60 seconds. So the bottom, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go 30. Oh, let's go. I'm sorry. I'm going to go. Oh, so we're going to go. Come back up here. So we're going to go first zone 30, bottom's 30. Second 40, 40. So I'm basically keeping the bottom, top and bottom, the same times and same temperature for most everything. What happens is on the last zone, make sure that if we're using a 4 zone, to make sure all these other zones are 0. We don't want anything in there or it'll screw up the profile. So go back and do anything that's there that we don't want there. So I'm making 0, 0, 0, 0, all zeros. So again, so it doesn't matter if we're running a 3, 4, or 5 zone profile. Always on the last zone, set your bottom time on the last zone of 300. And this will assure that you'll run and stop the profile based on your top heater setting. So whichever heater times out, the top or the bottom, whichever one times out first, that's what's going to end the profile and end the sequence. And so we want it to end the sequence based on the top heater. So I always put the last zone on the bottom for 300 so it doesn't run out of time too soon. Okay, so we got all ones, 30, 40, 40, 60. 75, 230, 260, 290. Again, all ones, 30, 40, 40, 300. That looks good. Okay, so our profile set. This is our IR temperature. This is the area heater. And if we're doing small boards that don't need to preheat, we're just going to set that down at 40. And we can set that anywhere from 100 to 350. It's a very hot heater. So normally if I'm using thick boards, I normally don't set it more than 150. to begin with. So what I'm usually doing is I'm trying to get put an external thermocouple on the board, and I'm trying to get around a 90 to 100 degree PCB preheat. So we'll adjust this IR temperature on larger boards to preheat our boards to around 90 C. Okay, so our fan speed, we can adjust our fan speed here. I'm going to have that at 100% for now because I'm not doing small components. Our alarm advance of 3, and our flow time. Let's see, cooling. Oh, let's put our cooling time at 60 seconds. And then I got to go back and double check our alarm and our flow time. For now, we'll just set it at 3. But I got to check the factors. I forgot what to set those at. Okay, so far let's save our work. We're going to save curve. Yes. Our name is lead free. So if we're going to do another profile, we're going to want to start and change the name. I'll go back to creating a new profile in a little bit. Okay, so next thing we're going to look is our work perimeters. And so this is what we want to make sure we have adjusted right. So we're going to have our mount position. So this is the distance from the home position of the head down to the component. Remember I showed you that earlier, we're going to move it down, and we can read our positions here when we move it down, and normally it's around 172. So right now for starting I'm going to have 172. When we get our chip so that the balls are focused in on the component and how do you put it, and lined up with the path for the width, that's going to be our optical position. So we're going to go and set that, and I'll show you that in a little bit. And then this is our pickup feed, and that's the distance when it picks up the chip from the upper nest, and that's normally around 50. And we set our depth to the circuit board, depth when it's being viewed in the camera, depth when it picks up from the upper nest. Our heating position, that's normally going to be the distance between the pickup tube and the chip. I usually have that at 3. Again, I have to check my BGA position. And then we put in our BGA size here. So if we'll put our upper nest has some measurement, a ruler on it, measures in millimeters. So what we'll do is we'll put the chip in the upper nest and we'll measure it. And currently we're working with a 35 millimeter chip. So I'm going to put that at 35. Okay. So here, once we open this window also, we can run things manually. This is for our controls. We want to have feeding on. So when we place the chip, if we have feeding on, it'll pick up the chip from the upper nest. If we don't want to use the upper nest, we can turn feeding off, and it'll pick up the chip from the circuit board. So we can place the chip on the circuit board and just pick it up from the circuit board. So that would be feeding off, feeding on. I usually use the upper nest for right now. I'm going to have feeding on. Yeah, I can manually operate the controls by turning the manual on or off. I can manually operate my cooling fan by turning the cooling fan on or off. Oh, in order to operate things manually, I have to turn manual on. I can turn the cooling fan on, off. I can turn the vacuum on, off. But I have to have my manual on to operate that stuff manually. And again, if I turn my manual on, I can use these arrows to move things up and down. And I'll turn manual off, I'll leave my feeding on, I'm going to exit, I'm going to save this curve. Then if I want to use that curve, then I would apply curve, and that loads it up in the system to use it. Let's go back to select curve. Let's go to calibrate. Confirm. In our calibrate, we have an alarm advance of 5 and 1. So I think those are factory settings, so we're going to go ahead For now, we're just going to use those settings. And then when I update the video, when I get an idea exactly when I want to set those, what I want to set those at, we'll update the video. Let's go to our work parameters. And for now, we're using 172, 12, and 40, 3 and 5. Okay. 172, 12, 40, 3 and 5. Okay, so let's exit. Not going to change anything here. I'm going to go back to my curve select. I'm going to go to my lead free. Confirm. Loads the profile. And I'm just going to go through and make sure we said we're going to use 5 and 1. Okay. And then we said we're going to go 172, 12, 40, 3, and 5. Let's go exit, save curve, yes, apply curve. Let's just confirm it saved everything, 172, 12, and 40, 3, and 5. Oh, then we see even more there. Our chip's at 35 for now. Exit, save curve, yes, apply curve, yes, go back, just make sure, because I thought I saved that earlier and I must not have, so always confirm that you saved everything before you go back. Okay, so that was our curve settings that we set up. Now we can look at our current curve here, go back and look at what we set up. Looks like we forgot to save our upper temp. It'll be 75, so we're missing that, so it's 230, 260, 290, all ones. 75, 230, 260, 290, all ones. 30, 40, 40, 300, 30, 40, 40, 60. Mount place 172, optical place 12, moon time 60, moon place 3, 5. Okay, so we have got all that saved, except it looks like we forgot to input our temperature here. Let's go back to curve setting, admin, 8888. Okay. I want that to be 75. Okay. Again, same curve. If we're going to use that curve, we're going to apply curve. Okay, so that's how we set up our board. Now we already have this lead free in there, so I'm going to go and show you how to set up something from scratch. So let's go select curve. And we don't have anything loaded. Just pick one of these ones up that we're probably not going to use. And let's just change them. Let's go confirm. Let's change the name to lead. Okay. And with the lead, I'm just going to use 3 zones. Remember the lead free was 4 zones? So let's take all these off. Actually, let's go back and let's take all these off. Alright, let's go select curve. Let's see if we have one that's blank. Yeah, that's better. So let's call this one lead. Okay. Up temp, 75. Again, we're gonna, instead of using a 4 zone, we're gonna use a 3 zone. With lead, let's say we're gonna use about 260. Just try 260. Sometimes you only need about 250 if you're using little boards, but we go 260, 230, 75. Our rate is gonna be 1, 1, 1. Time 30, 30, 40, 60. Down temp 75, that's our lower hot air, remember? 230, 260. Okay. Down rate 1, 1, 1. Time 30, 40, Remember, the last zone we're always going to be at 300. Press fan speed at 100%. Alarm 2-1, lead, cooling time 60. Let's save that. So, let's save the curve so far. And then we're just going to go back in and we're going to do like we did before. We're going to set up our work perimeters. 172, 12, 40. I like this one to be 3. So this one can be 5. And then our chip, let's make it 35. 35. Okay. Let's exit. Save it. Yes. Apply curve. Double check our work perimeter. 172, 1240, 35, 35, 35. It saved everything. Great. Apply curve one more time. Let's go back. Now let's go look at our current curve. Make sure it saved everything. 75, 230, 260. 1, 30, 40. Oh, made a mistake. We got to go back. Change that to 60. Looks good. Oh, we didn't change our top. Let's go back. Curve select. Admin. We're going to say what we forgot to do. Forgot to make this 60. Save curve. Yes. Apply curve. Yes. Back. Current curve. Everything's there. We save that as 30, 40, 60. Okay, great. Okay, so that's basically how we run the controls and how we set up a profile.